What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over how you can dominate close range fights in Fortnite Chapter 4 Season 2. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and comment down below what is your favorite kind of combination of weapons for close range fights this season. We're going to start off with the shotgun because obviously this is kind of the close range weapon in Fortnite and most shooters for that matter. And this season we have the Havoc Pump shotgun, the Combat shotgun, and the Maven Auto shotgun. I think the Havoc Pump is far and away better than the other two options. I might use like the Combat or the Maven for zero build competitive just so I have more room in my inventory to carry utility. But most of the time I'm going to be carrying the Havoc. It definitely felt weird at the start of the season with it having a different like swap time than the Thunder Pump and also having less range than the Thunder Pump. But I've definitely gotten used to it and it's become a shotgun that I really enjoy using. The Mythic version hits for 250 to the head if you hit a perfect shot, so it has the potential to one pump. And you're not going to one pump in every fight, you know, but just having the potential to hit for that much means like the shots that are subpar are still going to hit for a good amount, you know, like I'm often finding myself hitting like 140s, 160s, 180s with the shotgun. So even if you don't hit for 200 plus, it still hits incredibly hard. And that makes it very easy to eliminate your opponent quickly with just a spray weapon. It also does have a smaller reticle than the Thunder Pump, meaning it is harder to use. Like you need better aim to use this weapon, but you're going to be rewarded more for that good aim because you're going to have a tighter cluster of pellets within that reticle. And that means you're going to have more consistent damage if you're able to have good aim. Obviously, shotguns in Fortnite can always be inconsistent to a degree because if your reticle is just barely touching them, you're still going to hit them and get some damage. But when your aim is good in a fight, you're going to get very good damage out of the shotgun. It just takes some getting used to playing around the slower swap time and the lower range that the Thunder had. That slower swap time is very important because I think it really changes how you want to play the game this season. Last chapter and even last season, I talked a lot about how using the shotguns, you basically just wanted to shoot your shotgun and then swap to your spray weapon just to fill the time between shotgun shots and then swap back to your shotgun. Like I would play fights just to get out as many shots out of my shotgun as possible. But I feel like that's very different this season because of the slower swap time of the Havoc Pump. And it's just ridiculous damage. If you hit somebody for 180 and then swap to like a twin mag SMG, you're going to be able to finish that player very quickly and just a few shots out of it. And it has like a very high fire rate. And that's the main reason why I've been preferring the twin mag SMG over the pistol, because I feel like my playstyle mainly this season is to hit a hard opening shot with the Havoc Pump and then swap to my spray weapon and then basically just use that until the opponent is dead, unless I hit a very bad opening shot. If my opening shot, my aim wasn't very good and I only hit for like 40 to 50, then I probably will swap to my spray weapon for a decent amount of time and then swap back to the shotgun once I'm confident I can eliminate them in that one shotgun shot. But if you're swapping back and forth and shooting the Havoc Pump like 3 or 4 times in a fight, something is going terribly wrong. For one, it shouldn't take that many shots to kill them because the Havoc Pump has pretty good damage. But also, since the swap time on this Havoc Pump is slower, that adds up over the course of the fight. You know, like the Thunder had a very good swap time, so it wasn't like that big of a deal. But since this is slower, like the more times you have to swap, the worse your time to kill is going to be. And then also the range being less on the Havoc Pump kind of makes it to where if you're in a range where you're able to hit the opponent with the Havoc Pump and hit good, then you're also going to be in very ideal twin mag SMG range. Those are like the main reasons why I've been preferring the twin mag SMG over the tactical pistol. The tactical pistol was really nice last season because it had ridiculous range and a good swap time, which comboed really well with the Thunder shotgun because it also had good range and you wanted to be swapping back to it as much as possible. But with this season, the Havoc Pump doesn't have as much range, so it's not like the pistol's range really matters as much. And then the twin mag SMG annihilates people up close, and if you're using the Havoc Pump, they're going to be in twin mag SMG range. I just feel like the twin mag combos better with the Havoc shotgun. I've gotten this question an absurd amount over the course of the season, and I might end up making a video specifically on that later on just because I get asked about it so much, and I've talked about it in a few videos already. But yeah, I just think the twin mag combo is better with the Havoc Pump. The pistol is still fine though. Like if I had to use the tactical pistol, it really wouldn't be that big of a deal to me. I don't really think twin mag versus tactical pistol is really going to be the reason why you're winning or losing games in really either direction. Like both are fine. I do think the pulse rifle is the best spray weapon in the game though. So I typically run twin mag SMG until I'm able to go to the island and get the pulse rifle. The pulse rifle spawns when you capture the island and the island spawns in 4th zone. So you won't really get the pulse rifle until endgame, but that is kind of how I've been deciding my spray weapon and how I've been using this shotgun. It's more of just like you hit a good opening shot and then you finish them quickly with the SMG rather than a maximizing how many shotgun shots you're getting out over the course of the fight. That's also why I switched to the cumulative damage numbers this season rather than lists, is just because I want to see exactly how much damage I'm doing with my SMG over the course of the fight. That way we know whether or not it's like worthwhile to swap back to the shotgun or if I just have them 1 or 2 bullets within being eliminated. Like always in Fortnite, I think starting your fights with opening mid-range tags is very ideal. So if you see an opposing player, I think and you're like kind of mid-range to them, I think it's better to open up with some red eye shots or the Cobra DMR or whatever assault rifle you enjoy using. I think it's better to open up with shots of that, get them weak, get them, behind cover to the point where they're healing, and then push them while they're, worried about healing or anything like that. I already talked this video about how the Havoc Pump can one hit. So if you and the opponent are both full HP and then you just katana onto them, it's a very random fight. You can kill them in one hit if you have a mythic pump. They can kill you in one hit if they have a mythic pump. And even rarity aside, it still hits incredibly hard. And that's going to leave you vulnerable to third parties. So as always in Fortnite, I think close range fights are it's not as fluky, but it's just like you could take a lot of damage very quickly, and then it's going to leave you very vulnerable to third parties or just fights not going your way very quickly. So I like to start fights with opening damage. I think it's been like this for the entirety of Zero Build, and this season is even more that matters even more because of the Mythic Pump's ability to one-hit kill. I think hip firing is most important in close range. Like one of the biggest mistakes I see other people making when I do the spectating videos or I watch other people play is going to be that in close range, they're aiming down sights way too much. Like there are situations where you might want to aim down sights with your shotgun or your SMG, but you also need to have a sensitivity that you're comfortable tracking other players' hip firing, because when you aim in, especially with a shotgun, your sensitivity is going to be quite low, and that makes it harder to make adjustments, and that also makes it very easy for the other player's movement to throw you off. So the only times I really aim in is sometimes with my SMG, depending on range, but most of the time it's going to be when the opponent really isn't moving that much, or if I'm behind cover using my shotgun. If I'm like behind a piece of cover and then I'm just playing right shoulder peek and the opponent's like running into me, then sure, aiming in there is fine. But if you and the opponent kind of have like no cover between you, or you're just like in a really, awkward close range fight where you're both out in the open, it sounds bad, but this happens a decent amount in Zero Build. I feel like more often than not, you don't want to be aiming in those situations. And I feel like that habit is a mistake that really costs a lot of people, a lot of fights in close ranges, because they're way too reliant on aiming in with their shotgun in order to hit any shots. And movement is also super important in close range. Not only is it going to throw your opponent's aim off, especially if they're, not the best at aiming, you can also kind of aim with your movement. Like moving your character in a way moves your crosshair. So aiming with your character, I feel like, is also a valuable skill pretty much in any range in Fortnite, but it's really helpful in close range fights. And it's also going to throw your opponent's aim off, like we talked about before. So like strafing side to side, jump shotting depending on the situation, crouching up and down to throw your opponent's aim off. You want to be constantly moving and just being slippery and annoying in fights. The best way to think about this, I think, is do what annoys you. So like if you fight somebody and you're like, wow, that player was like so hard to track, the way they were moving was just really good, try to incorporate things like that into your fights. And this is another kind of weakness I see in a lot of like lesser experienced players, is that they just stand still while fighting. And if you think about it from the other perspective, if you were fighting somebody, wouldn't you just want them to like stand there and just die? Like that makes it way easier for you, So do what is hard to play against, and that involves moving your character, jumping, crouch spamming, just being unpredictable in like many ways with your movement. And then you can also use your movement to aim to an extent. Right shoulder peeks are super overpowered in Fortnite. When you're behind a piece of cover and you slide out from the right, you have to expose less of your character to get the shot off than you do if you peek from the left. It's just the way the crosshair is off-centered. That is the case. And if you are in a close range fight or anywhere around cover, this will happen a lot off spawn, or just anywhere where there's buildings, trees, rocks, whatever. You want to be utilizing right shoulder peek as much as possible. And this is another thing that you can just kind of look at someone fighting and immediately tell whether or not they're an experienced player or not, because like the good experienced players are just constantly seamlessly using right shoulder peeks and fights as much as possible. There's going to be times where you can't do this, obviously, but the more situations where you have right shoulder peeks, the more easy it is going to be for you to get kills. Also, you need to know how to peek from other situations as well, like playing low ground, for an example. I'll have a clip here from a recent like Inside the Mine video I posted where this player katanas to the gas station. And I want to chase him because I have him weak. And what I immediately do when I'm below him is just get to this wall. That way I have we have like more of a neutral peak if he does try to over peek and shoot at us. And then I could also jump and shoot, and then like we would immediately be like protected by cover. So learn how to play multiple situations. If you are in a situation where the opponent has right shoulder peek and you have to push them, what I kind of like doing is like sliding out wide. Like I'll sprint and then slide wide to hopefully throw their aim off. But this is like kind of questionable. You don't always want to be pushing people when they have right shoulder peek, but you know, sometimes it's going to happen. But just learn how to play a variety of different angles, whether it's right shoulder peeks, situations where the opponent has right shoulder peek, situations where you have low ground, situations where you have high ground. All of that is super valuable in Fortnite, and that's one of the reasons why players who play build mode are able to easily transition to zero build easier than a lot of players would think. It's just that's pretty much all build mode is getting like playing each angle appropriately, whether it's like getting right shoulder peek in a like situation where you're editing, whether it's playing low ground in a build fight, whether it's playing high ground in a build fight. All of those things transfer to zero build. But it's just like instead of building the cover's on the map for you, you know? The katana is also very, very good at repositioning in a fight. So like if you're behind in damage, one of the best things you can do, I think, unless the opponent is just in your face and you have no choice, obviously. But one of the best things you can do is like kind of katana to a different piece of cover and reset the fight. Because if the opponent has you weak, they're likely going to chase, and this is going to make it very easy for you to hopefully get a decent shotgun shot off when you have right shoulder peek and kind of neutralize that fight, or at least stall that fight out to the point where you can heal, or maybe just outright eliminate the opponent. So repositioning in a fight with the katana, I feel like is very, very undervalued. And once again, this is another thing that I feel like really sticks out when you're fighting against someone who's a good player versus somebody who's not as experienced, is the players who aren't as experienced will just basically use their katana uses running away, whereas the player who's more experienced, even if they're weak and behind on damage, you know, they will use their katana uses to kind of reset the fight in a way, but they're still playing the fight, you know, they're not just panic running. And that brings us to our final point, I think, is that it's going to be hard to do any of these things and play fights correctly if you're nervous fighting. And I think that is, again, the thing that a lot of players struggle most with is just being confident fighting. Newer players don't get in as many fights. They're not as experienced fighting, and it's like very stressful and nerve-wracking for some of them because they invest so much time in a match and they don't want to just throw that away and die. But I think forcing fights off spawn, or just forcing more fights in general, or playing creative and getting comfortable fighting is the best thing you can do, because if you're stressed and you're like nervous and you're panicking in a fight, your odds are you're not going to play to your best. So just get in more fights and get comfortable fighting. And once you do that, you're going to be much better at fighting, and you're going to be winning more fights that you would have been losing prior to being comfortable and being confident fighting. But that is going to be it for today's video. I hope you guys found this video helpful and informative. If you did, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and comment down below what your favorite weapons to use in close range for Chapter 4 Season 2 are.